What is up, Scrub fam? Pat here with the first part of my limited review for Draft Box 5. Originally, I was thinking I might not do this video due to all of the concerns and the fact that organized play is basically canceled until a minimum of June 1st, 2020. But I feel like as a content creator, that would, not be the best thing. I don't want players to lose interest or lose hope over this entire thing, so I'm going to continue on as if things were normal. And so today we're going to be talking about the red cards from Draft Box 5. I'll give you my scores on them. I grade things on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being basically unplayable, 10 being the best of the best, with 5 being a basic playable card. So yeah, that's basically the grading scale. And before we jump into it, got to, again, thank Alec Pastrana over at beardedcollectibles.com. He is the sponsor for this video. Bandai has announced a second print run of Draft Box 5. Alec is definitely going to be giving you guys the best prices on sealed product. I don't know if he'll be carrying Draft Box 5 for the second print run, but definitely hit up Alec for Series 10 because that looks amazing. I am super excited, super stoked to play with the Unison mechanic. If it works anything like Planeswalkers from Magic, as you guys have heard me say, it will probably be format defining and completely change the landscape of the game. So I'm super excited for that. And then lastly, before we just jump into it, just in general, guys, make sure you're staying safe out there. I am currently in isolation myself. This is the second day, and I'm basically going to be here in isolation by myself for as long as it takes for this whole thing to blow over. So yeah, enough of the seriousness and everything. Let's just jump right into it. So first card is Ssb Kaio-Ken Son Goku, Concentrated Destruction, or as you guys have heard me say or call him, Doomblade. So he is a targeted removal where you could pay 2 to basically do something minus 25k ignoring barrier, or you can play him for his 15k body and kill everything that's 20k or less. The activate main, in my opinion, is a lot better in constructed than it is in limited. 1-for-1ing somebody, while nice, is usually not worth the trade because in other games with limited, paying 2 to kill something is great. Paying 2 without getting a body in this game can actually get you killed, especially since the leader this time around has critical once again, and there are a lack of negates. So yeah, Goku, his best use is as a board clear with a 15k body. I don't see myself really using the activate main unless I am going to die. I will give this Son Goku a low 8. He is much better in constructed than limited, but he is still a automatic snap pick for the most part if you are in red. Next up is UI Goku Monumental Presence. This one I think is significantly better in draft. It is significantly worse in constructed. So it is a 4-cost 20k with critical with a 20k body, which is obviously really nice. But the best part about it is you can pay 2 under a specific condition if you draft the skillless package, the 10k package, 1-drops in the set. You can basically cheat him into play for much earlier, and then when he comes into play, he gives something, KO something with 20k power or less, ignoring barrier, which is obviously really nice. Even paying for 4 for this guy is still solid because you get the best keyword, sizable body, and a KO. So that alone would get him a 7, but because you could cheat him into play earlier, if you were playing this theme, that is going to make me want to give Goku an 8. I'll take this time to talk about the draft strategy in general for red going forward, since we just talked about their super rares and this one kind of hinted at. For the most part, I think red is very underwhelming compared to the other colors. I think it's the worst color to draft in Draft Box 5. It's very akin to green in Draft Box 4 in that it has a lot of wacky, zany combos based around 10Ks. The ceiling of this color is really high, but you have to basically fully commit to it and basically snap up every 1-cost 10k vanilla that you see and many of the supporting cards that we'll talk about in this video. So as long as you're sticking to the plan and you get a card like UI Son Goku Monumental Presence in your pack, then you will probably be a-okay. Next up is Tien Shinhan Unwavering Anchor. It is a 2-drop 15k, which is already a pretty good rate. When you combo with this card, with a skillless battle card with 10,000 power, you may choose this card and switch it to active mode. I wish it said original power of 10,000 because there are many pumps that pump exactly 10k skillless battle cards in this set. So I believe it will not trigger on this. This TM will not trigger in tandem with those effects. So that makes me like him a lot less. But that said, he is pretty good for getting in damage pretty early on, especially when your opponent is not awakened. You can swing on 1 and then combo Tien and then basically guarantee that you'll get in for like 3 damage on the first turn of the game, which is really good for aggressive decks that want it. So I'm going to give Tien a 6. Next up is Piccolo, Namekian, Fortification. So 1 cost 5k. Auto, choose 1 card in your life and add it to your hand. When this card attacks, switch it to active mode, then it gets plus 10k power and can't attack for the turn. So this card is actually really strong. Yes, it doesn't get critical, like intensifying power trunks, but this is a common card that will let us access our life. If anybody has played in Dropbox 4, you know that hand sizes are very low since leaders have critical on both sides, or on the front side, I'm sorry. So whoever can basically keep their hand size high early on and get to the Awaken with a sizable hand advantage will usually win out in the end. So Piccolo here, basically, he's just a common that lets us access our life, and there's not really much more else to say about that. That makes him a pretty good, pretty highly valued common. I'm going to give Piccolo a 7. Next up is Android 17 Rebel Reinforcements. 2-drop 15k is good stat line. Counterattack to negate, and then you get a 1-cost red battle card. Note that it could be any. It doesn't have to be skillless, so you can get this Piccolo, Namekian, Fortification, or whatever you like. This card is really good. At rare, it's nothing splashy. It's not like a bomb or anything, but it is a solid utility creature. So I'm going to give Android 17 a low 8. Again, I value negates and defending our life really high, especially since this guy is basically Uneasy Alliance Son Goku with some different kind of upside. Next up is Majin Buu, Cheerful Demon. 3 costs 35k. Yes, it comes into play in rest mode, but that extra 5k is massive. It's very difficult to get this guy off the board, and I definitely think if I'm in red, I'm picking him up. Going to give Majin Buu an 8. These like just big fatties win games. So next up is Frieza, Imperial Inspiration. This is probably, in my opinion, the one of the worst super rares in the entire set. I think it's a very overrated card. It's actually better in constructed, I feel like, than in limited, and that says a lot because I don't think that this card is super great and constructed to begin with. 4 cost 20k with no keyword skills is a big but time bomber. I probably don't want to hard cast this. It is a 1 cost for a 5k combo that gives the attacking card critical. That's really nice, except for the fact that your leader has critical on the front side. So for basically about 50 to 60% of the game, this Frieza isn't really doing anything that your leader doesn't already do, no matter what archetype you're in. Still, it's pretty splashable in a lot of areas, and it can set up some plays that can win the game. I'm going to give Frieza a 6. Next up is Frieza Double-Edged Sword. It is a 5 cost 25k, but you will never actually pay that cost, so it is has permanent, can't be played from anywhere other than its own skill. You can pay 4. Note that to give one of your opponent's battle cards minus 25k and one of yours minus 25k. Note that it's not choose up to 1, so you have to, I believe, choose one of each. So you can't just play this if you have nothing on board. If that's not the case, then this card is even more insane than I already think it is. It also has the ability to discard a U7 card from your hand to get him back. So it's repeatable, reusable removal. Yes, it has a drawback, but it is a decent-sized body with a very powerful removal effect. I think this is one of the stronger commons in the set. I'm going to give Frieza a strong 7. Next up is Worthy Warrior Kefla. It is a 1 cost 5k that looks at the top 7 for 2 skillless battle cards with energy cost of 1 and puts them into your hand. The fact that this +1s is really nice. It replaces itself and then also gets you another card. That happens very rarely, and it's in a theme that very desperately needs skillless battle cards in order to do some of the more insane things in the archetype. So if you are in red, mostly red, and you've already picked up a sizable chunk of 10Ks, Kefla is definitely a really solid pickup. I'm going to give Kefla a low 7. The biggest knock I think I have against her not as a card is that her rarity is uncommon. I really think that this is a card that the archetype really wanted at common in order to maximize and see 2 to 3 of them in a draft. At uncommon, you'll probably only see 1, and you'll know right away if you're in this archetype. Next up is Onato. Gentle Supremacy. It is a 1 cost 5k. Choose 2 red cards in your hand and place them in your drop area, and then basically you KO all of your opponent's guys with 20k or less power that total up to a cost of 4. And get rid of them, and if you kill at least 2 battle cards with it, you get to draw a card. So it's either target removal for a 4, or you get like a 3 and a 1, or 2 2s. It's still very good rare in my opinion because it's a board clear, and I think if I'm in red, I will pretty much always snap pick this for its utility. Removal is kind of hard to come by, and usually keeping the board clear is pretty much an auto win. This is basically like a watered down version of the SR Goku, and if you open it and you're in red, you probably should take it. So I'm going to give Onato a 7. Next up is Ganas Bird-of-Prey. 5 cost, double strike, 30k, has deflect. which is really super good in case your opponent has some of the counter bombs in this set. It has auto. This card gets minus 15k for the turn. When one of your opponent's cards attacks, you can negate the attack. So he has 2 built-in negates if you somehow don't finish your opponent off with this guy. And then he has activate main. Choose 2 skillless battle cards in your drop and RFG them to switch him to active mode. 30k double strike is pretty sizable stat line. There is even less combo power in Dropbox 5 than there is in Dropbox 4. There's no super combos. There's no deluges. So 30k is quite insurmountable in a lot of cases. And again, blockers and negates are at a premium. So a 5-drop that basically can't be counterplayed, that is this big with this double strike ability, and then the fact that he can go off on turn 5, you can probably get somewhere between 2 to 3 attacks with him relatively easily. Means that he's going to close out games by himself quite often, and he's very difficult, I feel like, to defend against. He's pretty much just for a almost for sure closer for red if your deck is built properly. So I'm going to give Ganas a 9. I think that he is probably the best red card to open in the entire set for limited, just because of how difficult it is to survive him. He pretty much guarantees a win most of the time. Next up is Ganas Vanilla. This is going to get a 5 for me. Almost all of these are going to get a 5 for me. Yeah, skillless battle cards, they don't have effects. Like, this is a playable card, and the only reason I didn't give it a 4 is because we're in red, where they really care about this specific card type, which is 1-cost 10k skillless. Next up is Kuru, Proud Supremacy. When you play this card, you get 2 skillless battle cards from your drop area and put them back into your hand. Obviously, pretty decent effect. I really wish this was the uncommon and Kefla was the common. I'm going to give this guy basically a 6. He is a decent card for the archetype. If you're not in the archetype, I just would not even consider playing him. He's really not worth it unless you have at least like 6 or 7 of these 10k vanillas. He's a later in the game drop as well. He's basically a down drop. Next up is Kawaii. This is my pick for the best 10k in the set, and that's largely just because the art is so fantastic. I really hate that this character was given basically a throwaway card that goes into a draft archetype. So yeah, again, Kawaii gets a 5 from me. Derkori, the Unstoppable Shadow, is a 1-cost 5k that kills one of your opponents, basically 10k skilllesses. This is super weird. This is a red card. I don't know why it's a red card. This should honestly be a different color, because this effect cares about 10k skilllesses, but it's designed to counter the archetype, which means the only time you really want to play this is out of the sideboard in games 2 and 3 against the mirror match. So yeah, that's going to get like a 4 from me, which is a situational niche sideboard card most of the time. So yeah, that's what I think about Derkori. Now we get into the actual payoff cards for the 10k skillless, and we have, first off, we have Feral Strike Shosa. It is a 2-cost 15k. When you play this card, you basically get a 1-cost 10k skillless back from your drop area, and then you also get critical on him for the turn. Critical is really, really nice. This card isn't as busted as it looks. You do get 2 attackers out of it. It's quite a lot of pressure, but he doesn't have critical all the time, so I'm going to give Shosa a 7. Next up is Mona, the Confidence Booster. 2-cost 15k. Burst 2 to give 2 of your 10k skillless battle cards 5k. This is what I was talking about with Tien. Once you basically pump them, you can't use them for the rest of the turn because they're now 15k base power. Also, note that it lasts until your next turn, so it makes it harder for your opponent's leaders to attack and damage your guys. I think Mona is one of the better payoff cards as well, just like Shosa, so I'm going to give her a 7. Next up, we have Burly Brawler Nink. He is a 2-cost 10k, but during your turn, he's actually a 15k that can attack cards in active mode. That's obviously really, really sweet as well. And then when he's KO'd, you get back a 10k skillless battle card. He's also going to get a 7 from me as a solid payoff. Again, these are the 3 commons you're really trying to pick up, I think, when it comes to playing this archetype. Next up is Majora, Unseeing Aid. He's a 3-cost 15k with Deflect, which is super good. The fact that he has Deflect, because he gets around some of the counters in the set, especially the higher end ones at rare and super rare. This is, in my opinion, the best card for the 10k archetype next to Ganos. So it is a 3-cost 15k. Once per turn, you get 2 skills battle cards at energy cost of 1 in your drop area or warp and play them. So what that means is that as long as this guy is on board and your opponent's not going to spend removal from, and you just don't swing with him, he's going to net you 2 10k battle cards that you can either use to combo with or attack with every single turn. It's very reminiscent of the Trunks from Dropbox 4 that would get you a 1 free 10k every single turn. This guy gets you 2 10ks every single turn. So even like decks that aren't trying to go super into the 10k theme can play a couple along with Majora and basically take over the game in terms of actual combo power and board presence. This card is very difficult to beat, and it's one of the strongest uncommons in the entire set, so I'm going to give Majora an 8. He is absolutely incredible. He's probably the second best red card basically in the entire set for draft. Basically only the 2 Gokus I think are going to be in the conversation with him. Next up is Mirage Maker Shansa, 2-drop for a 5k barrier, so you can't really get rid of him outside of very premium removal. You can only have 1 in play. You switch to rest mode and choose all of your red battle cards with energy cost of 1 and switch it to active mode. So this is basically a kill condition. It does win you the game, but it's really narrow and hard to pull off. Still is quite powerful, so I'm going to give Shansa a 7. Next up we have Character Not Found. He is a 1-cost 4k. Activate main once per turn. You search your deck for a battle card with energy cost of 1 and put it into your drop area to get one of the 2 effects. Give a battle card 5k for the turn, or shrink a battle card for 5k for the turn. This card's pretty cute. I don't really think it's super great. It does set up for cards like Majora and other red utility cards to get things into the drop. So I could see you playing this into Nink. So it does have some use on curve, but it's not exactly the highest quality. I'm going to give this card a low 6. Next up we have Daemon, Might of Many. It is a 1-cost 4k. When it dies, you draw a card, and then if you have at least 1 other skillless battle card that costs 1 in play, he gets plus 11k. So he's a 1-cost 15k that draws a card if he dies. That's pretty sweet value, especially at common in a theme that really wants this. I could see you having maybe 1 skillless, not swing with it, and playing a series of this guy or these guys, and basically getting in there for some damage, drawing some cards if they ever leave play. Card's pretty good for a common, and again another really solid payoff for the archetype. So I'm going to give Daemon a 7. Next up we have Jiren the All-Seeing. It is a 4-cost 20k double strike, which is a pretty fair rate. Once per turn, when your opponent plays a battle card, choose one of your opponent's battle cards. It gets minus 10k for the turn, and then when an opponent's battle cards attacks, you can choose that card and gets minus 10k for the turn. So basically, all of your opponent's guys attacking get minus 10k. If your opponent doesn't have a removal spell, this card's really difficult to beat. That said, though, it doesn't really remove anything, but it does save your life. It is a really strong defensive card, in my opinion. Time will tell if this card is really that good or not in draft. I'm leaning towards a strong 7 to a light 8 on this guy. He is definitely worth playing and one of the better rares, I think, for red in the set. But I think that he might be too easily removed. There is a fair amount of removal in the other colors, so he might not have... Tapping out for this guy might not be the safest. Doesn't really protect you as much as I would like him to. Next up is Kunshi, Threaded Manipulation. 1-cost cantrip is really nice, and it gives something minus 4k. I really hate that this card is a rare. I really wish this card was a common. It kind of deserves to be a common. That said, it's going to get a 7 from me just because it's a cantrip, so it's at least, top-end playable. Next up, we have Bear Hug Tupper, 1-cost 5k. You get to crit a life to get something minus 15k. Can be really good, but at the same time, the body is basically useless. This is kind of like an emergency only trick or negate. I'm going to give Tupper a 6 because I think he is, worth slotting into your deck, but, probably only as a singleton, and he's not really a super high priority, in my opinion. Then we have Zoirei, 1-cost 4k blocker. You know how much I love those, and when it is removed due to a skill, it'll draw a card. Unfortunately, power levels are much higher, like I said in the previous draft box thing, so I'm not going to give this guy an 8 like I traditionally do. I'm going to give him closer to a 7 just because, again, there's ways to get rid of this guy, and he doesn't get to replace himself. He only replaces himself if your opponent's actually going to use removal on him, which feels like it's never going to happen. They're just going to choose not to pick him most of the time. So yeah. Next up we have Kokade, 2-cost 15k. This might actually be the strongest combat-wise Kokade we've ever gotten. When you play her, you choose one Universe 11 card with a cost of 1 from your deck and play it with its skills negated, then shuffle your deck. So yeah, pulling a free 5k out is really nice on top of an average statted body, so that's going to get a 7 from me. I definitely will play this if I have at least 2 or 3 other Universe 11 cards in my deck. It's just a solid 2-drop. Next up is Katal. So 1-cost 1k. When you play it, draw a card. This is probably maybe one of the best cards you can yoink with Kokade. It has Activate Main. If your leader card is red, send this card from your drop area to your warp to choose 2 skillless battle cards with energy cost of 1 from your deck and place them to your drop area, which will set up basically for Majora on turn 3. So basically you're going to play Kokade, get Katal into play. You won't get the draw. You combo them away. Then you basically activate main, remove them from your drop, get the 2 cards, use Majora, pick it back up. So like that's kind of like an example line of how the deck is supposed to play. It's worth having this card in your deck, but like who was it that we were talking about? Like Zoiray and Topper, I'm like less enthusiastic about it, and also like Kunchi. I can't believe that this guy's a rare. It feels like so low end for this guy to be a rare. I'm gonna give him a 6. Next up, we have Flight of the Grand Eagle. 1 cost negate. You know how much we love those. It's not a true negate, but giving plus 100,000 power basically assures you're not dying. And then obviously you can pay this card while tapped out. And it has pretty sweet synergy with the deck it's designed to go with, because you can just kill your 2 10Ks and then you just pull them back with a card like Majora or Nink. So this card is actually really, really good, and I will give it a high 8. Is a really, really sick negate, and I definitely would pick this up. Even if you're not heavy red, I would splash red for this card. It's just really, really good. Next up is Ultrasonic Exchange, another somewhat janky rare. It's basically just a bad version of Denial of Hope. I really wish this card was Denial of Hope, because Denial of Hope gives you the option of playing it in response to a 20k and getting rid of it. This basically says if your opponent plays a 20k or less, you can Ultrasonic Exchange and give them the choice of either getting rid of the card they just played or like a random 1-drop they don't care about anymore, which is why I kind of hate it. It's basically its best case scenario is Denial of Hope into an empty board. Its worst case scenario is basically you killed a 1-drop for 2 energy and you're probably dead. So yeah, I just don't know why this card's a rare. I guess they just wanted to minimize the amount of counterplays and they rarity upshifted it. But this card is not super great. I would probably put it in as a 4, probably a sideboard card. I just don't think it's really that strong of a card in the format. I just think that there's too many ways to get around it, and you're just never going to get the effect you really, really want out of it. Next up, we have U4 Assembled. 1 cost, choose 2 skillless battle cards with 10k power in your drop and or warp and play them. This card is actually pretty great. It's like a little mini Majora. It basically just gets you the effect of Majora 1 time at the uncommon level, and it is an extra card. It's just a good card if you're in the theme. If you're not in the theme, then obviously this card's going to be like a 4 for you, but if you are in the 10k skillless theme, this thing is like closer to like a 7. It's just you're getting 10k combo power for 1, but it has the flexibility of being split where you can either get a 5k and then a free attack out of it. There's a lot of the versatility in this card. It's deceptively good. Next up is Mystic Talismans. This card is really great. It's a 1 cost negate. Then you choose a battle card and it gets plus 5k until the end of your next turn. So that means that you get to negate an attack, you get to protect a battle card for the rest of the turn, and then it also gets a mini Sensu Bean effect that lets you pressure. This card is just really fantastic. I'm going to give this card a low 8. It's really good negate, and I would definitely just pick up as many of these as possible if you're in red, just because it's out of common, so you're going to at least see 2 or 3 of these in your draft, so you definitely want to pick this guy up. And then finally, the last card we will talk about for today is Meditation. It is a 1 cost. Choose one of your battle cards. It gets plus 15k, can attack battle cards in active mode, can't have its attacks negated, and can't attack your opponent's leader's card. So you can't attack a leader card. That kind of is a bummer, but this is basically a removal, and your opponent's negates are basically worthless on this thing. So yeah, it's a 1 cost, but it feels kind of win more, right? Like, if you're already at parity or ahead, this card's a slam dunk. This card does very little, I think, to bring you back from behind. Still, I think it's worth having, like Tupper, a 1 of these in your deck. It's just a solid pump spell. Obviously can't negate it, but it's just good for getting rid of battle cards that are on board. I think of it just like Tupper, like I said, as spot removal. It's just nice to have as like a singleton. Not like the greatest card, but still pretty decent. So that's going to be it for the red cards. I will probably post the blue cards sometime this weekend. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you are new here, consider subscribing. And then obviously if you liked it, leave us a comment or a like and let us know how we are doing, what you guys want to see me do to improve on this in the future. And as always, for the foreseeable future, guys, again, I cannot stress this enough. Be safe out there. Take care of yourself. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.